Democrats have so far refused to meet with Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, though a couple meetings are in the planning phase. He was tapped by President Trump to replace retiring Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. Lawmakers on the left are demanding the release of a trove of documents relating to Kavanaugh's past White House service under President Bush. One senator who did meet today with the nominee, John Kennedy of Louisiana, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, joins us now. Senator, great to have you with us.
It's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
What was your impression of the meeting today?
I like Judge Kavanaugh. I mean, I knew going in that he's a superior intellect. I've read, not through, but I've read enough of his opinions and his law review articles to know he's whip smart. But I wanted to use the time we had together to try to understand not just what's in his head, but what's in his heart. We talked a little about the law, but mostly we asked him how his beautiful daughters were handling all this. We talked a little bit about his teaching. I used to teach a little bit in law school, and you know how you juggle that with your day job. We talked about his coaching. He coaches girls basketball. We talked about Pete Maravich's. I saw Pete Maravich's first game as a college freshman, and of course Judge Kavanaugh's a big fan. We talked on the legal side. I didn't want to cross-examine him. That wasn't the purpose of the meeting. Again, I just want to know what's in his heart. But I asked him the role of precedent in our legal system, and he's thought about it deeply, and I was impressed with his answer. Look, I really like what I see. I mean, the guy's whip smart, but I think he can also understand and identify with just ordinary people like me.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've seen you cross-examine nominees. It doesn't always end well for them. So we'll see how this one goes.
Well, that's my job. I mean, my job. Look, this appointment. We're appointing an unelected, the most powerful unelected position in a country that's the most powerful in all of human history. So this is a big deal. And it's for life. We've got to make sure that we get it right, and that's part of my job on judiciary. And I'm going to do my job. I mean, I'm going to ask tough questions, but I have a pretty strong suspicion he can handle it.
Well, okay. Senator Menendez, one of your colleagues from across the aisle, not a big fan, hasn't seen his full record, but here's what he says about him so far.
I think if the American people understand Judge Kavanaugh's record, they will rise up, and that will stop his nomination.
What do you think he's referring to?
Well, I've looked at his record. I'm still reading his opinions. He's written about 300. I've started with his law review articles. But as best I can tell, here's what Judge Kavanaugh believes. He believes that the role of a judge is to call the balls and the strikes, to interpret the law. Not to decide every other Thursday that you want to rewrite the Constitution to prosecute your own personal political agenda. I think he understands that sometimes judges make policy. It's inevitable when you decide a case. You're making policy for that case, and it's a precedent. But he understands that judges should not try to be ideologues and do what Congress is supposed to do. If you want to be an ideologue and prosecute a personal political agenda, run for Congress, or run for president. Now, I think that's the proper role of a judge. I think that's what Judge Kavanaugh understands. My friend Senator Menendez would probably prefer, not to put words in his mouth, but I know him pretty well, he'd probably prefer to have a liberal activist put on the court who says, well, you know, the Constitution is important, but it's just a guiding principle, and here's where I think we ought to go on this issue. And that's not what our founders intended. That's just not what I'm rather fond of the Constitution. I think our founders did a hell of a job with the document, and we ought to follow it.
Okay. Well, a lot of folks feel that that's exactly what they should be doing.
And if you don't want to follow it, that's why we have an amendment process. But you have to do it through the democratic process. You just can't have somebody appointed go say, I know what's best for all Americans, and this is what I'm going to decree.
Is it true that you have served as a high school substitute teacher?
I serve as a substitute teacher. I've done it for, I don't know, since 2002. I did it once in high school. I do mostly junior high and elementary.
Wow.
Let me tell you why I do it. If you want to understand what elementary and secondary education is all about, go be a volunteer substitute. They'll even take politicians.
All right. Who is tougher to, because I feel like you don't have a very high tolerance level for BS. Who is tougher to corral, junior high students or U.S. senators?
U.S. senators, and let me tell you,
you didn't even hesitate on that.
Let me tell you, when you're a substitute, everybody ought to do it. It makes you appreciate what it means to be a teacher. It's you and 25 kids, so it's a challenge. But senators, look, I like all of my colleagues. On the Republican side, we're more entrepreneurial, politically entrepreneurial. The Democrats tend to move in lockstep. We're together almost all the time, but every now and then we have a couple of senators that kind of wander off like a free-range chicken. And that's their prerogative, but when you've only got 50 of you, it makes it tough sometimes on votes, but that's what makes it interesting.
Senator, we are glad to have you appear with us tonight on Fox News at Night. Come back anytime.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.